All right, this is going to put us. We are live now, so
Oh, we are live.
if you check on my Facebook, if you go to my Facebook, then you can.
Uh,
This is, and we're probably live right now. So,
okay, let's see.
uh,
Did you
so,
post that on your personal?
so it should show up on my
I got it.
personal
Yep, got it.
page, and then share it over
Hmm.
to, there we are. Yes. Oh, okay. I'm going to share it over to Family Forward Project as well. And then share it with a few people here
Yay!
that just popped up. Oops, got it. Share
Jeez,
in.
that was crazy.
That
But this is
is.
why this what I've lived with, from Facebook for
Yep.
years,
Yep,
years.
yep, yep, yep. Okay, so I'm just going to tag a few people that I saw there. If you could tag Corrine, I saw her and she's not popping up on mine.
Hold on a second.
I've got a few Amy, some of these people that I know were watching. Okay, so if you all are, um, I see a few people have popped on. We moved over to StreamYard and are doing the live now, which will show up actually on the YouTube channel and the Facebook. And Jennifer is sharing it to her channel as well. So we are just in the raw here this morning. So thank you for joining us. And now that maybe we know how to do it, we'll do a couple more coming up in the future.
Yeah, I mean, we have to go around, all the controls of Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have no idea why. Like almost everybody else that popped up, it said ask them to join or whatever, and not you, not you. So
No, never
not you,
me.
not you.
Never me.
All right.
Okay. Now
So,
we're on.
yeah, so here we are. It is November the 13th. We are already mid-November. We are a week past the election, and I think
And I'm still beaming.
yeah, yeah, I am still beaming too. And I know we have a lot of family forward people, and we have a lot of families who are disappointed with the election just because of that's where they are. And, my heart feels for you. But honestly, the Biden administration did nothing for families. And
Mm-mm.
even though there were, in the last 12 months, there were a substantial number of congressional hearings with John Ossoff and Cornyn and Crapo, and we even got Paris Hilton to go up there. But even with all of that, even with all that public attention, nothing has changed. As a matter of fact, it became just a dead roadblock. Now, of course, we had two different political parties in charge of Congress. We had a Republican Congress and a Democrat Senate, which always causes some problems. But there were several bipartisan issues that were making their way around, and we've been up to DC many times. So here we are, Jennifer. Thank you so much, and I know that you and I both, who are probably the quintessential matriarchs, who have been carrying a lot of just so many responsibilities in the past 5 years. And I just still appreciate you so much. So I did ask you to come on here and talk about this with me. And you know what I'm doing. You know about my nomination. I nominated myself, and everybody's
Well,
like,
actually, I was nominating you before you nominated yourself because I was emailing Benny Johnson. I
yes.
was emailing, you know what I mean? Everyone, Tucker Carlson, anyone I could think of that could possibly put you in with this administration. And most of us that are in this movement for child protective services, and I still include myself in that because it's always a passion and it never goes away. And although the last 5 years, I can't hardly believe I'm saying that it's been 5 years. Um, but I needed that time for
Yeah,
my family.
absolutely.
And not that my mind or my heart has ever changed for the families that have been victims to child protective services. But that was the hope I saw with the Trump administration. And there's one key factor to that. And that key factor was, look at what went on during Trump's, what was that? But look at what went on during Trump's administration. He was the
Mhm.
only president to ever make an administrative order to benefit families.
Yep.
He was hot on human trafficking. And that's what I saw. So, when he made that administrative order, um, that whatever you're doing is really loud. It's really projecting a lot of sound. What is that?
Oh, somebody behind me outside actually has a uh,
Lawnmower?
leaf blower.
New leaf.
Okay, so
So,
I'm going to kind of pop off and on here. So I'm just going to mute myself here for a little bit while you're talking. So go ahead.
so bottom line is when I thought Trump was done, but when he announced his run again, not only was I also listening to people like Kim Clement, who was calling this in 2007, but I was reading and studying the Word of God and understanding really and truly what I'm to do. And so I always knew that just those two moves during his administration meant that he was not part of it. Because let me be clear, here in Kansas, we are mostly governed by Republicans. We, even back in the days when I ran for governor and Brownback was the Republican governor, we were still taking 7,000 children a month with no evidence based on hearsay. So obviously I had sent you the messages showing you that I was reaching out to people like Benny Johnson, Tucker Carlson. I've reached out to others even before this, because there's one thing that I know to be true. And that is, you live and you breathe the Child Protective Service nightmare, right? They've come after you. They've come after your license, which they've done to multiple attorneys. Anyone who backs, resists the system and the injustice and the egregious trauma that it brings to these children and their families, you've never missed a beat. You've never missed a step. And now there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity because Kennedy has put out a request. Whoever thought such an idea would be so brilliant? But he has put out a request for people to be able to vote, or even, and Connie, I could have done that without you. I wouldn't have probably been as efficient at your resume, but people can nominate other people. And so I think, first off, I've always liked Kennedy. And the fact that he wants to clean up our food, which brings our children to a healthier position, maybe, you know what I mean? We could see some of that rather quickly. Trump's asked him to do it in 2 years. I believe that he will. And we need to step up. This is where we come in now, right? This is where the people who have been affected by this agency across this state. I mean, for crying out loud, you and I met years ago because you called me up and said, will you come to Sarasota, Florida and speak? And, of course, me being me and you being you, it just clicked because I'm like, absolutely. So this is where we have an opportunity. They've actually given the people an opportunity to stand up and say, these are the people that have been out here fighting. These are the people that we need to help make the changes because they understand them. And this is our chance. This is our chance to truly make reform of the child. I call it the Child Destruction Services, but Child Protective Services, which is supposed to protect the interest of a child, which is absolutely the furthest thing from happening because we have profitized it. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was Clinton and Biden that pulled that off in 1997 and turned this whole system into a $77 billion profit for taking children. So, the things that I've always thought, Connie, is we got to remove the anonymous reporting. I'm sorry, that does not fly with me. Well, nobody will report it. Oh, so how does that change from a murder charge? If you witness a murder and you watch it, or it doesn't, you have to go testify. And that's what the Constitution of the United States says. You have the right to face your accuser. However, in the courts of Child Protective Services, that couldn't be further from the truth. So, in my opinion, I know where you stand. You stand for the children. You stand for families. So it's got to be us. It's got to be the people. I've already done it. There are several. The last I checked this morning, you were up to 104. We need to get you over that threshold to 200. So we need to share this video far and wide. I need the link of that particular website linked in the comments below so that people can easily find that and get on there and go vote. Register. Connie's already vetted this. This is from Kennedy. This is not one of those wishful sites where you go on and you sign some petition. No, this is the real deal. You need to get on this website. You need to fill it out, join it, become a member so that you can go in and vote. And if you have been obviously affected by this agency and had the opportunity for Connie to represent you, you absolutely need to be on this website voting for Connie. I mean, this is our chance. This is our chance to save all of the children. And that's why I'm here. I'm not here to promote anything other than saving the children. And that's why when you asked me, I know first I was hesitant. You know what I mean? Because I'm in the middle of building my Kaya's legacy. And I don't, when I came, let me say this, when I came down to Tennessee and I watched the egregious things happen that was in front of my face, I now realize what happened to me during that period. And it was the helplessness. It was the helplessness of watching my best friend be lied about to a jury, watching the law be redefined by a judge. And I was powerless once again, just like I'm powerless to stop the pain my daughter lives every day, the pain that I live with every day. I was powerless. And it was too much. It was too much powerlessness for me to be able to handle in that moment of my life. But today, we have the power.
Yes.
Senator Kennedy has given us that power. Donald Trump has given us that power. And I know I don't agree with everything. I never agree with anything with anybody, I don't think. But the reality is this. We have been lied to. We have been manipulated just like they've been doing for decades with Child Protective Services, right? That was my concept. If state took your child, you did something way wrong. And we know today that's not true.
Yeah.
In fact, statistically, we know in Kansas that 96% of the time that's not true. But they get that money. So they take those children anyway. And these judges signing these ex parte orders, that's the first thing Connie's going to done. It's done. So this is our chance. This is our chance to truly get up. I'm so giddy. Listen, I haven't been this happy for a long time. For a long, long time. And I actually, it's kind of funny because that witch kept saying there's going to be joy in the morning. Oh, yes, there was. Oh, yes, baby, there was joy. And I haven't felt that for a long time, but I actually have hope for our country. I have hope for our children. And my goal here today is to tell you to get off of your tails and fill out the form and go vote for Connie to become part of the administration that will help our children, that will save our children, that maybe we can negate the thousands upon thousands. I mean, what is it, Connie? 70,000 a year that we strip out away from their entire family structure. And we know from the Harvard study that causes permanent brain damage. I mean, what are we doing? So this is it. We got to do it. We've got to do it. And I've been texting and messaging, even last night, as I'm barely holding my eyes open, I'm texting. Have you filled out that form yet? Have you went and voted yet? You know what I mean? We have to call your mom, call your dad, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles. I'm doing all of them, I need your voice here. It matters now. So I need everybody to do that.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer. And I think the leaf blower has moved on now, but if he shows back up around the corner, let me know.
Okay.
But you know how much I appreciate you and how much I adore you. And I mean, our friendship. And I am going to make one correction. I don't think I actually even called you, Jennifer. I think I actually sent you a message and just said, "Would you happen to be willing to come to Sarasota?"
Maybe it was. Maybe it was a message. I don't even
I
remember.
probably was not even.
I was so gun ho to just stop this, that I was willing to do whatever it took.
Right. And
And
I
I
think I was not even brave enough to actually ask you on the phone because I was so desperate to have people help,
I know.
and I'm sure, and I know that you felt that way as well when you first started being vocal about it and first started speaking up. And I mean, not only did you just really question, is this real? Is this really happening? But we both, were at that stage where we were just desperate. Like, is anybody else paying attention to what's going on? And that is what, of course, has been my just been ongoing. And you did, and so much I appreciate you did come to Tennessee when we had Wendy's fake criminal trial. And you did get to see the whole thing. And of course they put me out in the hallway, but it was 10 months later where they sat me in a courtroom at a defense table in front of a jury of 12 people in a community that I've lived in for 22 years, a community that I've worked in this community. I know people here. It's like these 12 people are now being seated in a jury box, being told that Connie Reguli is an outrageous criminal. And I mean, just that whole surreal experience, even though I knew the district attorney had created a fake crime, even though I knew the judge had created a fake crime, and even though I knew in my heart the whole purpose of this was to discredit me, to silence me, to punish me, and to prevent me from helping anybody in the future. That's what it was all about. I mean, they didn't even ultimately put me in jail because they knew it was a fake crime and they would only exacerbate their damages at the end of the day. But they knew that they could discredit me, and of course they did. And I will say, God told me to be still, right? Just to find a quiet place to be still. I wasn't totally still because of course we still went to Washington. I still went and spoke to several state legislators, tried to follow up, but I could just tell, especially with the state legislators, how DCS had been in there discrediting me and making them believe that I was a felon. And some of them believe that. So here we are. I mean, I fought that persistently and without stop, and they did everything they could to drag it out until it was ultimately reversed. But even after it was reversed, it took me another 6 months to get it dismissed. So that just ultimately happened in August of this year after 6 years of fighting them. And plus, remember, they stripped so many rights from me. They stripped my right to vote. They stripped my right to have a gun. And here for 2 years, I was unable to vote. And trust me, as soon as I got that dismissal, I was down at the election board harassing the heck out of them about, you better make sure I'm on the voter rolls before the presidential election. And
Yep.
so, they did. But,
Well, listen, and I want to make sure that people understand this too, that, I'm not, I don't think either. I mean, you're probably more the Republican than I am. I'm more independent. But what solidified my position in being independent is watching them do this to you, because this was Republicans.
Yes, it was. Yes,
doing
it
this.
was.
And it's the same within Kansas. It's Republicans that's
Yes.
taking these children. It's Republicans, Representative Dan Hawkins, Senator Jerry Moran. You don't pay any attention to what's going on with Child Protective Services. And of course, our governor, which is completely worthless. She didn't do anything but up the numbers. So, but of course, she's on the Democratic side. So for me, I look at him now, it takes on a new definition for me, which then was what everybody kept saying. Oh, they're rhino, Republican name only, Republican in name only. And I think that's true. I think
Well,
that's
I
true.
don't.
I think we are so
Mhm.
fooled by who's good and who's bad. Although I will say, my president, my coming president, um, did do away with Mike Pompeo. Mike Pompeo's as corrupt as they come. And yet I've got people who I watch, like Jack Hibbs out of California, pastor, that I think highly of. We disagree on a lot of issues. But one of them is he thinks Mike Pompeo is so great. Well, you don't know what you're talking about.
Mhm.
And so these people have to be filtered out,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because they're not one or the other. They're truly in for, in my opinion, for an agenda that's far beyond good. It's bad. You know what I mean?
Well, and one of the biggest problems that I believe that Trump had in his last administration is he didn't have the people. And that is why this is so important right now. I've been watching on Twitter some of his appointments, but here we are. And this website is called Maha Now. So Robert Kennedy, as soon as he joined the Trump team, coined Maha, which is Make America Healthy Again,
Yes.
MAHA. And the website is Maha Now. And so MAHANOW.org. So a couple people said to me, oh, that's just some trick progressive site, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you go to X, and you look up Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and you go to his profile and he is verified. And I would say among all the social platforms right now, X's verification program is probably the most trustworthy to filter out those who are fakes. And so
Right.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s official website on his X profile is mahanow.org.
Yeah.
So and I have also been watching because I'm trying to sort it out as well, right?
Right.
I went through the effort of putting myself up on this platform. I put a resume up there, I put a whole history about myself up there, and I'm asking people to support that. And so I'm also concerned because I know how tricky some of the progressives are, that they would create some fake thing to try to target more people,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I wouldn't put that past him.
Yeah.
But I don't think
So
it is. I mean, I agree. I've gone to Twitter, made sure it was his account. You know what I mean? In fact, I solidified my account because I can't get anywhere on Facebook anymore. So I just kind of keep that for my own personal journal,
right.
more or less. But the reality is that I do believe, when Trump came in the beginning, he didn't know nothing. And I can very much relate to that because
Mhm.
when I came in and ran for governor, I didn't either. All I knew is I was done with this crazy. And if nobody else wanted to step up, then I would. But I didn't know who was who. And that was a very, oh man, was that a long lesson of people who were not what you thought they were, right?
Right.
And so when Trump went in the first time, he jumped right in the middle of the swamp, but he didn't know which one were alligators and which one were the snakes. He just didn't know.
Yeah.
And so he has now lived, right, through fake felonies. They have tried to kill him. They've tried to do a number of things, and mainstream media played along with that all the way, lying to the public, manipulating the public. I mean, after all, isn't that what they said in 1958 that they were going to do with TV? Isn't that
Mhm.
what they do with you know what I mean? Their commercials, their pharma commercials. Oh, you can feel so much better. Don't mind the side effect of lymphoma, but look at these kids smiling with their grandma who's happy. I mean, it's mind it's manipulation. Let's put
Yeah.
it that way. And so now it has a whole new perspective. This
Mhm.
guy has now seen who all, after the 2020 election. And by the way, where's the 16 million votes that all of a sudden don't exist anymore,
Right.
guys? I mean, all you have to have is two brain cells to rub together. And if you can do that, you can see through the BS. But I think this go around is going to be more reliant on people like you, Connie. I
Mhm.
think that more and more people have awakened to the woke reality and they are starting to stand up. And Kennedy, man, he's like one of my heroes. On top of Elon Musk, Donald Trump being the top because he's the one living the nightmare. When I had brickbats come through my office window with a death note rubber band to it. Yeah, I spent $6,000 putting bulletproof lining in my front plate glass windows of my office after that. But The goal was to scare me away.
Mhm.
I mean, let's face it. I got 37% of the vote in Kansas that year, right? Against a $4 million incumbent with $17,000. Nobody's ever done that.
Mm-mm.
And the reason is because I spoke the truth. I wanted transparency. Every hearing needs to be on a camera. You don't
Yes.
get to hide behind closed doors. Like, what's that guy's name that Trump appointed for the border czar?
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Oh my gosh. When he got up and was like, I'm about to, what did he say? I'm about to make a statement and I don't give a shit if it makes you mad. That was my platform.
Mhm.
I spoke the truth and I didn't care who liked it. It was the truth. And people gravitate towards the truth if they're smart enough to see through the smoke screen.
Right.
So I think Trump is going to do amazing things. He's already like shaken the whole, mainstream media's skeleton. He's blowing it out of the water. Kennedy, Elon Musk, and now Elon and Vivek Ramaswamy are going to be heading up over and looking after all the waste in the agencies that we have spent all of our tax dollars promoting and paying these people to do absolutely nothing but attack us.
Well, and we know that prolonged foster care is definitely in that waste category,
Oh,
or even
yes.
the wrongful removal of children.
Listen, we
And,
just had
and
another
so I want to,
child.
yeah.
Go
And
ahead.
so I did have the opportunity this morning to listen to an interview of Jerry Milner, was the director of the Children's Bureau in the last Trump administration. And I listened to his speech. I think Jerry Milner actually did a decent job, but he's obviously a Democrat, because when they asked him about his vetting process, he said, they asked me who I voted for and they didn't like the answer. So he's obviously not a Trump supporter, so unlikely that he'll be the next candidate for this position. And, and let's talk about this position. I mean, who really wants it, right? I mean, there's no glory that's going to go down for heading up ACF, Administration of Children and Families, or the Children's Bureau. You're not going to get a statue, right, on anybody's city hall, city
Yeah, because it's
square.
just for children.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you're not going to be like get a Nobel Peace Prize for it. You're
Right.
not going to be a presidential candidate, and good Lord, I wouldn't want to be anyway. But this is a very unique position, because it is the root. If you really stop to think about it, it really is the root of what's going on, right?
Mhm.
Because this is where the funding comes from.
Yes, correct.
So-
And that's a big problem. But, I think, well, we all know what I think. I think that you need to be head of this program. That's what
well,
I think. And at that point, I think that you have worked in this particular realm for so long, Connie, that you could call in the right people. You could
right.
call in the right people to assist in making these changes happen. But really, it just needs to, in my opinion, it just needs to follow the Constitution of the United States. It's not that
Right.
hard. But we have changed from, a lawful courtroom to an administrative hearing
Yes. Mm-mm.
that absolutely negates the Constitution of the United States.
Well, and an
And
administrative hearing that is funded by removing children.
absolutely.
Right.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
was just looking at DCS's new budget, and still like 40% of the money is federal money.
Yep.
So if we can threaten those federal funds to these state agencies, such as CAPTA expired back in September 2023,
Mhm.
and Congress has basically put a patch on it to continue funding it, where
Correct.
the executive branch administration could, with a swipe of a pen now, because it is expired, with a swipe of a pen, they could cut it off and say and rewrite the whole Title IV legislation.
Well, and I don't think they'll do that. I don't think they'll do that, because doesn't that push them back then to Congress for the funding to be reallocated, even if it's under new rules and regulations? It takes that process, correct?
Well, not exactly. I mean, Title 4E is going to have to be rewritten, and they did rewrite it. However, they left a lot of the bad things in there. But and the thing that Jerry Milner was talking about, which was positive, is like this funding has to be reallocated anyway. We are putting too much money. We're putting too much of a financial incentive on the removal of children and family separation.
Yeah.
And the one of the things that the Democrats, here's what he expressed that, and I want to take a moment to talk about this. He expressed four things that he was afraid in the Trump administration coming up. And here's what he said. Number one, he said, well, Trump's not going to give enough attention to the LGBTQ youth. Okay, that was one. Number two is that Trump is going to allow faith-based organizations to get federal dollars. That's number two. The third one was, well, you've heard all of Trump's rhetoric about labeling people and characterizing people as eating dogs and being garbage. And we just, cannot allow that when all people, have equal rights. And then his fourth one, which is the most interesting, is where they claim that Trump was the one who caused the family separation and immigration, which was done intentionally now through the Department of Justice, he says, to prevent so much immigration. Okay, but nobody's talking about the impact of family separation of American families. I
Right.
mean, there
Well,
is such a financial and psychological impact there
mhm.
that is so devastating to our culture.
Well, and here's the other thing. Even during all that period where they're all crying about, you've separated the immigrant children from their families, the Harvard study that came with the detailed information that it causes permanent brain damage, causes all of these attributes that are lifelong attributes from trauma. That all came because they were removing children, the illegal immigrants and their children. Not because we were doing it to our own at 70 and 80,000 children a year,
Oh,
or
yeah,
that we have 65,000 children missing from state's custody. Oh, no, no, no. No, we only performed that research because it was happening to illegal aliens, not
correct.
American citizens.
That's
But
correct.
I obviously stole that data because it does apply to every child,
It
right?
does.
Every
It
child.
it
But
does.
no one cares that we're doing it to our own.
Right, and the state agencies still ignore that.
They
They
do.
still ignore it. That
I
they
know.
just pretend like that does not exist, which is
Listen,
amazing
I
to
think
me.
every judge, any judge, I don't care who they are, I don't care what their letter is behind their name, any lawyer, any judge knows that this is wrong.
Mhm.
They
I
know.
don't know. I don't know, Jennifer.
Listen, you cannot be part of a hearing where there is absolutely zero evidence, an anonymous call, okay? No physical attributes leading or believing that there's any harm coming to a child. Remove that child from its grandparents, its aunts, uncles, cousins, mom, dad, the whole gamut, and in not some part of your freaking brain not know that this is wrong.
Well, here's the problem, they lie, right? They lie. Just like in Wendy's case, the
Yeah,
social
but
worker
these,
lied.
listen,
She
hold on, because that'll only go so far. These
Yeah,
people, don't tell me they're not on social media. Don't tell me they're not, because I don't believe it. They absolutely have been. I know quite a few judges know exactly who I am because I've stood out their courthouse with 60-foot banners calling them kidnappers.
right,
And you're going to tell me they didn't do a little bit of homework? If they didn't, they should immediately resign their position.
right.
And this bullshit, this BS that they go around and they don't even talk to the children. They don't even investigate, but yet they'll come and investigate Connie Reguli.
Mhm. Yes,
They'll do
of course.
private investigations on Connie Reguli, but they won't even as much as speak to the children that they're about to rip out of their entire family structure. And even when the children do ask to address the court in Kansas after the age of 14, they're ignored. They're ignored. They don't
Well,
get a say.
And the local judge that I ran against, Sharon Guffey, I put out a flyer that said, "You're putting these children with strangers." And she testified under oath when I said, "Isn't it true you're putting them with strangers?" Her response was, "Well, for about 5 minutes." And I was so shocked, my jaw dropped down that she truly believes that you take a 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old child and you rip them out of their home and you drop them off at a stranger's home with nothing, I
Mhm.
mean, not even their teddy bear with them,
And they're only a stranger for 5
and they're
minutes.
only a stranger for 5 minutes.
That's the idiots that need to be removed.
Absolutely.
That's the
And
idiots that need to be removed. It's so disgusting to me. I just don't have any excuse. If I can get educated based on one case, how many years ago now? 10 years ago?
mhm.
If I can investigate one case, get my butt on a plane, fly to Washington, D.C., go sit in the law library and research, or the congressional library and research, and try to understand what is happening, so can everybody else. And
Yes.
in fact, I would demand that from every judge sitting on a bench in any type of hearing. But that's not what happens.
Mm-mm.
That is not what happens. The judges side with the social workers because maybe they're going to have a beer after work,
Mhm.
or their kids go to school together. So you know what I mean?
Oh,
Listen,
and I mean, it's gotten worse. We actually have cases where, judge's cousin is a foster parent, right? Or,
yeah,
a CASA worker's getting becomes a foster parent again. I mean, it has become such an incestuous mess
yeah.
because of the money tied to it. And now, it's and people getting 3 and 4 and 5 foster kids so that they have multipliers on their monthly stipend, and
I call them
nobody.
foster mills is what I call them because
Right.
listen, I don't think people understand this. And so I want to make sure you all get it. When you adopt a child from foster care, a check comes with that child until they're 18 years of age. Okay? Some of them range, it depends on how many drugs you put them on, because the more drugs you put them on, the more money you get.
Yep.
But the reality is, it's about $850 a month per child. You pay no medical, you get food stamps, you get lifelong benefits that come with this child, and which, is why you see some of these, what I call fake pastors that have 5, 6, 7, 8 foster kids. They're really, nobody else catches on to that that's not a problem. So, 8, I mean, that's roughly $4,000 a month if you just, and no medical, no, if when you adopted your children, Connie, were you afforded a check with them?
No. No.
No, no, because private adoption means you adopt and you assume the responsibility. But see, the way the states do it is they can continually give you money from taxpayers because they also get a cut.
Mhm.
That's what happens. And that's disgusting. So, I mean, and a lot of these, what I know, and Connie, I know you've met well over, my, when I stopped, when Kaya left, I was, I think, at roughly 5,500 families that I had interacted with and touched and filled out documentation and started looking at some of the, you know what I mean, the statistics of what I was seeing. And they target the poor.
Yes, definitely. Well,
They don't
because those are the
target
kids who
those.
qualify for Title 4E, of
Yes.
course, and the
Yes.
vulnerable. I mean,
Yes.
just the people who are, struggling to make ends meet, or maybe there's something that happens in their life that makes them vulnerable. It can be
Yes.
a situation of domestic violence. It can be an accidental injury to a child. It can be having a child born with complex medical needs that the parent is doesn't understand. It can be actually a parent who reaches out to the department to
Mhm.
get some help because
Yes.
of a situation. Maybe they have a child with autism or Down syndrome
Yeah.
or
Don't ever
something.
do that. Don't ever do
No,
that.
no, and I have myself represented parents who have been the ones who
Yeah.
reached out and sought for help. And and the thing with the financial funding, many, many years ago when I started this, in a neighboring county, I had someone reach out to me who had been in law enforcement, and he told me personally that there was a CPS caseworker in that county and the neighboring county who was cutting deals with law enforcement, that she would call them to remove children, that they should qualify as foster parents so that she could place the children in their homes, and then she got a kickback.
That's what
And
we're doing now in Kansas. So that's what they are mandating. So like if you're a grandma and you want to get your grandchild out of foster care, what they're doing to bypass that Title IV requirement is they're making grandma go get a foster care license.
yes.
So then they don't alienate the funds from the kin clause, right? So the way it works is if you are kin to the child, the state doesn't get that money.
Right, exactly.
So what they do is they force you to go take your foster care license, even though you're grandma or aunt or uncle, and that way they can still claim the non-kinship fund.
Well,
right?
plus they also get to continue to police you.
Yes,
They
correct.
can they
Correct.
continue to police you. If they give custody to grandma, they can't go in every month. They can't get their school records. They can't get their medical records. But if grandma is a foster parent, then they continue to have access to the medical records, the school records. They can drop in without notice to your house. They can actually remove the child again, and then again show. Now, if they remove the child again, they'll show, well, grandmother was unable to keep the child the first time, so grandma cannot have the child again.
Right.
So the
And
funding,
it goes on, and it just keeps going. And here's the other thing that people need to understand is that once you're in the system, even if you've been out of the system for 10 years, go have a baby and watch them show up again. Automatic. Here in Kansas, you are labeled. It is connected to your medical file. It is connected all the way around so that when you, let's say you were a foster child and you aged out of the system, you're 23, you have a baby, they're there. They're there. You need to be prepared for that because they come regardless. And I've rescued so many that I've literally got phone calls, you know what I mean? Please come to the hospital. We had a doctor here that was calling babies hooked on methamphetamines, and they were having to withdraw. And I mean to tell you, girl, I have seen some craziness. I know you have as well. But when you get up to the hospital and you race up there, I stopped my vacation for this once actually, and that baby wasn't addicted. That baby wasn't addicted. That doctor was flat out lying. And the mother went and took a screen. They tried to say the mother was positive. So the very next day, I took her for a hair follicle. There was nothing in mama's system. And they literally suppressed that baby's breathing twice. They almost killed the baby.
Oh my gosh.
That happened right here in Wichita, Kansas at St. Joe Hospital.
Ooh.
Yes.
Wow.
And I wish I could distinctly remember that doctor's name, and because I would say it in a minute, but I don't want to say the wrong name. So I got to be careful about that because I only want to speak the truth. But it was a doctor right here. Him and his daughter are both physicians here in Wichita. But the only way to change that, the only way to change this nightmare for these families who are predominantly poor, are dependent upon court-appointed attorneys who are absolutely bought and paid for, who, you know, the children get guardian ad litems. Do you know how many cases, Connie, I was running across and the guardian ad litem had never even spoke to the child?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I am absolutely sure.
I mean, we'd be 3 months, 16 months, 22 months in, guardian ad litem.
Well,
taxpayers are paying them.
And even the court-appointed attorneys don't even talk to the parents.
No. And listen, in Kansas, we have the secret social files statute.
We have secret social
where
files
they get to have a complete separate social file accusing the parents of meth, heroin. I mean, God only knows what it's saying. and
Well,
they're
and it's
never allowed to see it. They're
and
not
it's
allowed to
right.
know it. That just goes to the judge and the social
I was
worker.
going to say that. It's not secret to the judge. The judge
Right.
gets to
No,
see it. But
no.
even the
And
parents
their
of
lives. Their lives.
and the parent's attorney doesn't even see it.
Nope.
The filing of secret reports is one of the things that I took head on here in Tennessee because CPS was filing a court report that they
Mhm,
were filing the day before court or that morning and not even
mhm.
giving the parents a copy or the parent's attorney a copy. And
Yeah.
CASA does the same thing.
Yeah.
CASA files a secret report. And I had to file a motion with the court to prevent CASA from filing secret court reports. Now, I happened to be on an appellate level that I was no longer in the juvenile court, or the juvenile court would have allowed it. But the circuit court finally did shut that down. But that is the secret reports, the secret social files. Those are things that continue to be devastating and is
Absolutely.
such a violation of due process
And
in
it's a
so
lie.
many levels.
And they're fabricating these stories, giving them to the judge. The judge is thinking, and again, this is because the lack of due diligence on the judge's part, right? Um, you're gonna tell me that judge thinks that should be legal?
Mm,
You really gonna, because if you're telling me a judge thinks a social secret file should be legal to use against a defendant or a parent and have no right to know it, they need to be disbarred. That's my opinion. They need to
mhm.
be disbarred. End of story. That is not following the Constitution of the United States. Period.
No, it is not. And the due process levels are just infringed upon at every level, and they have so
Everyone.
much protection and so much immunity.
Mhm.
That's one of the things that we have to get rid of is the immunity
Yes.
on civil rights actions. I
Now
mean that
let me ask you this question, Connie. If you have a 5-year-old little girl who is molested, raped, and the perpetrator is arrested, does that child have to testify in a court of law?
well, the law in Tennessee, if they do a forensic interview, the law in Tennessee is that the forensic recorded interview is admissible, but the child has to be made available for cross-examination.
Mhm. See, here, the child takes the stand.
Yeah.
I've been in those hearings, watched the little 5-year-old girl get up on the stand, not only be questioned, but cross examined. If
Mhm.
that little 5-year-old girl has to get up and testify to the atrocities that's happened to her, what in the world makes any common sense person believe that you can call up and make an anonymous report of abuse and not have to take the stand?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
Happens every day. And these
Mhm.
judges signing these ex parte orders is, man, it makes me want to almost nominate myself so I can go clean house.
Right.
But I know you'll do it, and that's why I promote that. Now, I'm probably gonna it's probably gonna bite me in the end because I have a feeling if you get in, you're gonna be calling me going, "Hey,
Hey, Jennifer.
I need you to do something." But you know what? For these kids, I would do that if I felt like there was a point where progress was actually possible.
Right.
Now, I
Well,
have.
and yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, and I just want people to understand I didn't do this on a whim. Okay. This is a very, very serious because and I think one of the things about Jennifer and I that is sort of our sisterhood bond here is that we both take our own families very serious and we're very, very protective of our adult children, our grandchildren, on just their day-to-day life. I mean, I was distracted this morning because I had a adult child with a flat tire. I mean, it's like
It is our life.
it is our life, and I take it extremely serious, and the logistics of managing this will be a challenge to me, and I'm 72 years old. I don't hide it. I tell a lot of people I could go be taking bus tours to Israel with a lot of 72-year-old people, or trips down the river or something, and I just see no point of that. I just see no purpose behind that because I do have children and I do have grandchildren and I do know Jennifer's children and I know her grandchildren. And if we don't leave something better behind, if we
We're
don't
doomed.
to our very last breath, march the march that we need to try to put a path in place. And we have to do it. And I have worked on it from the media standpoint, from the legislative standpoint, from, interviewing victims, trying to really just raise the rumble, just raise the roar of what is wrong about this. And if we don't do it, and then it's going to be left in the hands of those people who hold themselves out as the administrators, whose mentality and whose mindset has become so corrupted and so warped to this, foster parents are not strangers and a child is better off in somebody else's home. And, foster care is great, which we know it's not. We know all the statistics show that foster care is a social engineering failure. And so if I don't do it, if I don't make this attempt, if I don't try, along with a lot of people that I really respect, President Trump, Robert F. Kennedy, Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy. I know Kristi Noem is now up for the administration. These are people that I have watched over the past 8 years and have watched them stand up, stand out, make a stand, see in their own realm, in their own special area where they are willing to stick their neck out and try to make a change. And so this is done with a lot of internal passion as well as internal commitment. And I
want to say something right here, because I know you're on social media a lot, and I know what's going on behind the scenes. I can't think of, nor have I ever known anyone with the tenacity, the determination, the drive. I mean, you're like the Energizer Bunny, right? You take lickings, girl, and it doesn't matter. You keep ticking. And I believe that's the calling God has placed on your life. And I believe that's where that unknown source of energy comes. I mean, you are a warrior for these children. You have been that from the day that I met you. And our passion, I believe, is what connects us because of our children, because of the realization we know if we don't step in when we leave, what's left for our children, right? What's left for our grandchildren and our great grandchildren. And this was the frustrating part for me early on, is when I figured out what was happening before I knew you. I was devastated, and I was reaching out to everybody I knew. And I'm like, you got to come help me. We got to save these kids. And then everybody would blow me off and blow me off and blow me off. I'm like, okay. But when it happens to you, don't call me. Okay. Because when you do, I'm not going to be there. And that's happened multiple times now. I've had multiple families who personally I've known, whether it be for years or decades even. And I resisted them because I thought, now you want to reach out because it's affected your family. But when I'm telling you this, when I had no strings in the game, I'd not been attacked by DCF. My kids were never in the system. I never endured any of that. I strictly stood up because when I investigated, I found the allegations that were being made were true, right? Mm-hmm. And then these families all want to, and even still today, Connie, I still have families in it. And now one of them I responded to because I have to let go of that because that's not of God. And I have to forgive and I have to move on. And I have assisted I'm assisting in a multitude of cases right now that I really didn't even want to do, but I can't, my heart can't take it. Mm-mm. You know what I mean? But here's something that you have been able to differentiate from far above me or any other advocate out there. You don't let those boundaries interfere with your ability to help those children. That's why you're the perfect candidate for this.
Thank
you. Because you have the ability to separate not only your personal feelings, but even your personal beliefs. You have the ability to separate that and save children. Now, they've done extreme damage to you in that realm because of the fake felony pulling your license, and I've continued to encourage you to not let them have that. I don't care how old you are. I don't care that you're 72. God says we're to be salt of the earth, right? Which is one of the reasons why I stepped in and started helping the family that I really didn't want to. And I'm about to, like, seriously bring the banners out. It's getting to me again, to the where I can not only separate that pain and that helplessness, right? And compartmentalize, which I think you're extremely good at. But it's getting bigger. It's getting worse. It's not,
Yes.
you think 10 years ago, I made all this noise in Kansas and they're going to quit now. No,
No.
it doesn't work that way. They just get bigger. The more silence you give them, the bigger they get, is what I'm seeing. Right. And so the thing that with you is, it doesn't matter. There are no barriers or boundaries for you in protecting children, period. End of story. I've watched you personally. I've watched you professionally. That's what makes you the candidate for this job. That's what makes you the candidate for this job, is you put those children first, far above your own personal emotion, your own personal belief. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's about the kids.
It is.
You have never missed a step. You have never missed a beat, no matter your own trials and tribulations. But that's what solidified for me. You've been called by God. So I'm going to pray. I'm going to pray that God moves on people watching this video, that they will absolutely reach out to more people. I know we've met the first threshold of 50. We need to get you. I want to surpass the 200. I want 1,000 people minimum. I mean, there's what, 15,000 on Family Forward. Every single person attached to Family Forward should be out there signing up on this website, voting for Connie to get this position, because you all know what we're talking about. Okay.
Yes, they do.
So that is my prayer. And Lord, I just ask that you move them. I ask that you move them right now, that they will not only get on that side and press vote for Connie to have this position, but that you'll move on Senator Kennedy, that you'll move on President Donald Trump, that you will absolutely put her in a position that you have called her to, Lord, that you will put her in that position to save the least of these, because isn't that what our goal is, Lord? So I ask for that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
That's
Amen.
just, it's got to happen. So guys, I mean, I could talk all day to you, because I love you dearly and I'm so proud of you. I know that you know that I am forever your friend, because not everybody comes when people are in need. And when my world crashed, you were there by my side without a question. And I don't know how I would have endured that without you. And you have always been my friend. So I have multiple reasons why I know that this position is what you need to be in. But the most important reason is because I know you'll save these kids. I know that you will restore families. And that, in my opinion, is your calling from God. And so I'm asking everyone to please share this, or you don't even have to share it. Just call them. Copy this link, text it to your aunt, uncle, cousins, everybody, and go vote. That's all it takes. And then, because once you're in front of Senator Kennedy, we're done here.
Yeah.
He'll know. He'll know. So please, that's what this video is about. That's what this video is about today, is saving our children. And there's no one more qualified on the face of this planet than Connie Reguli. And everyone on Family Forward needs to make sure and go vote. And don't wait. We need to get this number up, because I'm planning next week to call Senator Kennedy's office. I'm not going to stop. I'm really hot at Tucker right now for some of the things he said, but I don't agree with everybody, but I still love him. I mean, he's still right in the majority of the things he says. He's not in everything, but we'll get into that conversation on another day. The reality is this is our chance. I've never seen an opportunity come about that could actually spell the end of a nightmare for so many babies. So
Mhm.
many babies. So please get out your laptop, get out your phone, get on this website and go vote for Connie Reguli for our children. Okay?
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer, and I'm gonna tell them one more time how to do that in case they are watching this video and don't have a link. So you can type in nominees.mahanow.org, and that again, that's NOMINEES dot MAHANOW.org, and then it has search for nominees. And you can type in my name, it will pop up. And then at the top, it says votes and it gives you the number of votes, but that's also where you vote. It's not very user friendly. And so you click on where it says votes and it will give you the opportunity to put in your email so that they can verify that you're a real person and then you can vote. We're also posting the direct link. I'm posting it. I've been sharing it. I wanted to share that link first with the people that were the closest to me, the people who had worked with me the most on a day-to-day basis. And with that, we have over 100 votes. So we are now going to be moving this. I'm taking a lot of my, if you've watched me over the years, you know I've been to several different states and spoken. I've been to India, I've been to Sweden, I've been to Switzerland, and I've spoken. I've spoken in DC, I've spoken at the state legislature. So now is the opportunity where I'm going to take some clips from that so we can begin to circulate those. So as you see those pop up, please share those as well. And it tells you over and over and over my heart of how persistent and how consistent I have been over the years in never letting go, never getting distracted in spite of felonies, in spite of my needy adult children's lives
And her needy friends. Don't
and
forget us.
my needy friends. But in spite of that, and those close to me know that. They know, how I've had to embrace my adult children in some very difficult crisis over the years.
Yeah.
And also it with just Wendy and with what she went through. And they really sacrificed Wendy to get at me. And I appreciate that. I understand that. I mean, it was all because I was wanting to save her 12-year-old disabled daughter from the hostility of foster care. And she was, by the way, in 6 homes and 4 schools in 10 months and had never been separated from her mother. So she is certainly a victim of separation. But I appreciate and I understand how she was targeted and sacrificed by the agency to be able to get at Connie and shut Connie down more statewide, internationally, nationally. And they thought they could do it, and they have not succeeded.
Well, they kind of counted, I think, Connie, that you would just simply walk away.
Yes, they did. Yes, they
That's
did.
what they
And
thought. They thought
yes,
they would scare you enough, push you enough that you would be like, you know what, I'm old enough now. I can just go retire. Kind of like a Trump, right?
yeah,
Trump didn't have to do what he did.
no,
He stood up. He could be at Mar-a-Lago right now, living out his best days, playing golf for the rest of his life. He
yep,
did not have to endure that. I didn't have to endure that. You haven't had to endure that, but we did.
yep.
We did for the sake of our children and the sake of our country.
Yes, and this country is I mean, all we have left. I mean, when we go, we have to depend on the next generation.
Yep.
We have to depend on that. And if children don't understand, I call it generational genocide. If they do not understand the value of whoever their parents are. Now, of course, we don't want children to be sexually and physically abused, but there is such a small percentage of that it doesn't even account for the 680,000 children
That's my
that they
point.
yeah.
And here's the reality. Are there listen, I'm seeing horrific stories weekly on
Mhm.
we just had a quadruple murder here day before yesterday. Um I'm seeing stories of very abusive parents killing their children or, listen, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but we have flooded the system for profit,
Yes, we
which
have.
means we are missing the children who desperately need saved. And
Yes,
that's what's happened.
that's true. That's
That's
true.
what's happened.
Yes.
You clean that system out and truly focus on children. I mean, it's not hard. It's not hard. It's not rocket science, as I've said many, many times. If you clean the system out from profit and actually focus on the children who are in fact being abused, you would start saving them.
Absolutely.
What we're seeing is
Absolutely.
they're dying because you're too busy making money.
Right.
That's what's
And
happening.
and I've said this before, people don't like when I say this, but CPS does not want the children who've been severely abused in foster care, because foster parents are not special people. They're not child psychologists, they're not child development specialists.
They're too difficult.
They're so difficult. And I mean, I've represented families who have taken on very difficult children who've been abused, and those children, they turn around and give them back. And
Yes,
I have seen that. And
I've
so
seen that
they
too.
don't want children who've been locked in a closet and
Right.
starved and tied to their bed and
They want
sexually
the children
assaulted.
that they can sedate with Xanax,
Yes.
and whenever they cry for mommy, take a pill,
Yep.
and let's keep you sedated while we collect the money. It's so evil that there's not another word to describe it other than evil.
Mhm.
And every social worker, listen, I don't trust none of them. I don't trust the judges anymore. I used to have faith in a few, not anymore.
Mm-mm.
Nope. Because you can't know this directly by way of me and not make a drastic stand unless you're part of it.
Right. That's right.
How I see it. Plain and simple. So I want to touch base again. I want to touch base again in a couple weeks to see where we are, and keep people updated, because when you connect with them, and then it's kind of like Trump. That's why Trump, I think, has been so successful, because no matter what everybody's saying, shut your mouth, don't make those mean tweets.
Right.
We didn't listen.
Nope. Mm-mm.
And people connected. And so I think that's important, Connie, that mostly you, I mean, granted, you'll have my mouth anytime you need it, as long as I'm able. But I think it's very important that we keep them up to speed and up to date with what's really going on.
Yep.
Because they can't turn on the local news and know that.
That's correct. That's
All
right.
you're,
They
all
can't.
you're going to hear there is Orange Man bad.
Right.
Orange Man bad. Wasn't that the
Well,
Democratic
and I want to say sort of the narrative now is, oh, Trump is just going to fill his cabinet with loyalists. Well, I hope he does.
I do too.
I hope he does.
Loyal to the United States of America and the Constitution of the United States.
Absolutely.
And I'm all for that. All for that. And I don't have no sympathy for the liberals that are listen, if you don't know, if you haven't seen some of those videos, Connie, they're mentally ill.
Yeah.
There's no other question. You're either so brainwashed or you're mentally ill. But the bottom line is, Trump is going to make changes, and he's the only president in my lifetime that I actually saw make a change administratively in DCF, or Child Protective Services, as we all know it. And he's the only one that I saw going after human trafficking.
Yep.
If that didn't speak volumes, nothing will. You're lost. You're gone. So you just keep going. I'm so proud of you. I love you so much. And by the way, she's winning, guys. The felony's been thrown out. If you don't know and you haven't followed, you should pay attention. And that's part of the reason why I think you belong in the Trump administration, is because you're not a quitter. And no matter what they portray you to be, no matter the falsehood that they put out there, you have proven them wrong every time. And it's been now solidified by way of the appellate court that threw that fake felony right back in their faces, and in my opinion, reprimanded the judge who did it. But you keep going after them. Judge Woodruff, not only are you going to someday face the music in front of our God, but I'm hoping and praying that you face the music here. So anyway.
All right. Well, we're going to end on that, girl. I love you too. And we are going to, we probably won't wait. We probably won't take 2 weeks. We'll probably check back in with everybody. And by the way, everybody, I am going to the budget hearing on Friday. So you'll be hearing from me Friday as well, because our commissioner is asking for another $187 million to capture children. All right,
well,
girl.
In the meantime, you guys get on that website, go vote. Connie, make sure and put a link in there in the comments.
Yep, I will. I will. Okay. And I'm going to go
Have a great day, guys.
Love you, girl.
Our country's going to get better.
Love you.
Love you too. Bye-bye.